Love is not always beautiful. Sometimes, love is quiet. Sometimes, love is the reason you cry in silence at 3 a.m. while pretending everything is fine. And sometimes, love is the thing that destroys you slowly, from inside. This is not just a story about love. This is a story about trust, about promises, and about the day I realized that the person I loved was slowly becoming a stranger. The story begins with Ayaan, a 28-year-old software engineer. He was not rich. He was not famous. But he was loyal. And in today's world, loyalty is sometimes more rare than love itself. Ayaan met Maira during university days. She was confident, beautiful, independent. The kind of girl who didn't wait for anyone to open doors for her. She kicked them open herself. Ayaan fell in love slowly. Not because of her beauty, but because Maira laughed loudly. Because she believed in dreams. Because she once told him, "I don't want a perfect life. I want a life with someone who never stops trying for me." That was the day Ayaan decided something inside his heart. He would never let her feel alone. They got married after 3 years. The wedding was small but emotional. Friends said they were the perfect couple. Social media called them #relationship goals. But nobody saw what happened behind closed doors. Because perfect pictures hide broken stories. Ayaan started working long hours. He wanted to build a future. But Maira started feeling lonely. Loneliness is dangerous in marriages. Because loneliness doesn't always push people towards sadness. Sometimes it pushes them towards someone else. One evening, Ayaan came home late. He found Maira sitting in darkness. Phone screen glowing on her face. She quickly locked her phone when she saw him. Ayaan noticed. But he didn't ask. Because trust is sometimes pretending not to notice things. Even when your heart is screaming. Weeks later, Ayaan found messages. Not directly, but through accidental notification pop-ups. Messages from a man named Rahil. "Did you miss me today? I wish Ayaan worked less. I wish I met you before you married him." Ayaan's hands started shaking. Not because of anger. Because of fear. Fear that the woman he built his world around might be slipping away. The rain was falling that night like the sky was crying for something it had lost long ago. Ayaan sat near the window, staring at the dark streets of the city, thinking about how love changes without warning. He remembered the first time he saw Maira in university. She was standing near the library stairs, arguing with a professor about unfair grading. She was fearless. That was the moment he fell in love. Not with her face, but with her spirit. Love is strange like that. You don't choose love. Love chooses you. And sometimes, it chooses you just to teach you how painful life can become. Ayaan had always believed that loyalty was stronger than attraction. He believed that if you loved someone enough, they would never leave your side. But he was wrong. Because loyalty is not something you can demand. It is something people give willingly. And sometimes, they stop giving it without telling you. Marriage changed everything slowly. At first, it was beautiful. Morning coffees. Late night talks. Dreams about buying a bigger house. They would talk about children. Names. Future plans. Maira wanted a daughter. Ayaan wanted a son who would play football with him. They laughed about it. They believed life would stay like this forever. But life never stays still. Life moves like shadows across a wall. You don't notice the change until the light is gone. Ayaan started working more hours because he wanted financial security. He told himself he was doing it for Maira. But sometimes, love needs presence more than money. Maira began spending more time on her phone. She started going out with friends more often. She stopped talking about her day. Small changes. Almost invisible. But love is built on small details. And betrayal also grows in small details. The first time Ayaan felt something was wrong was when Maira forgot their anniversary. Not completely. She just said she was busy. She bought him a watch 2 days later. But it didn't feel the same. Because love is not about gifts. Love is about remembering without reminders. Then came Rahil. A colleague from her office. Friendly. Funny. Too friendly. Too funny. The kind of man who makes you feel special without ever saying he loves you. Ayaan hated that feeling growing inside his chest. Jealousy is not always about insecurity. Sometimes jealousy is just love trying to protect itself. But Ayaan stayed quiet. Because he trusted Maira. Or maybe, he was scared of what the truth might do to his life. One night changed everything. He saw the messages. Not intentionally. But fate sometimes reveals truths when you are not ready to see them. The messages were not romantic. Not directly. But emotional cheating is sometimes more dangerous than physical cheating. Because emotional cheating doesn't break bodies. It breaks hearts quietly. Like poison in slow water. Ayaan felt his world slowing down. He wanted to confront her. But he didn't. Instead he went to sleep that night pretending everything was normal. But he couldn't sleep. Because trust, once broken in imagination, starts breaking in reality too. And that was the night Ayaan realized something terrifying. Love does not die suddenly. It dies slowly. Like a candle burning in a closed room. You don't notice until darkness is everywhere. Next morning, Maira received a message. Not from Rahil. But from someone else. Someone who knew secrets about her past. And that was when the real story of betrayal truly began. Morning sunlight entering the apartment. Bird sounds outside. But inside, the atmosphere is cold. Ayaan is standing near the kitchen counter, holding his coffee without drinking it. He is thinking about the messages he saw last night. Meanwhile, Maira is getting ready for work. Normal routine. Too normal. Which makes Ayaan more anxious. Maira. You're quiet today. Did you sleep well? Ayaan. Yeah, just work stress. He lies easily. Because sometimes love teaches you how to lie to protect your relationship. Not always good. But sometimes necessary. Maira kisses him on the cheek before leaving. But Ayaan notices something. She is wearing new perfume. He doesn't remember buying it for her. Small details. But betrayal is built from small details. The investigation begins. After Maira leaves, Ayaan checks his emotions. Then he checks her phone. He hates himself for doing it. But trust is already cracking. And once trust cracks, curiosity becomes stronger than morality. He finds nothing. No suspicious messages. No calls. Nothing. But he knows something is wrong. Because love is not just about what you see. It is about what you feel when someone is lying. Later that afternoon, Ayaan receives a message from an unknown number. If you want to know the truth about your wife, meet me at Riverside Cafe at 7 p.m. His heart stops. Fear mixes with anger. Who is this? A prank? Or someone who really knows something? That message stayed in Ayaan's mind like a dark shadow following him everywhere. He tried to focus on work, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Maira. He remembered how they used to talk about honesty when they were dating. Maira used to say, "The moment we start hiding things from each other, love starts dying." And now, he was sitting in his office, hiding his fears from her. Irony is cruel. Life teaches you lessons using your own memories. The day passed slowly. Each minute felt heavier than the last. Ayaan kept looking at his phone, waiting for Maira to text him. She didn't. That made him more nervous. Because when someone you love suddenly stops giving attention, your brain starts creating worst-case scenarios. Human mind is not peaceful. It is paranoid when it loves deeply. At 6:30 p.m., Ayaan left office early. He told his manager he had a family emergency. He was lying again. But love sometimes turns honest people into professional liars. Riverside Cafe was crowded. Rain was starting again. Ayaan hated rainy days now. Because rain reminded him of emotional memories he couldn't control. He sat at a corner table. Waiting. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15 minutes. Then someone sat in front of him. A woman. Around 30 years old. She looked serious. Not aggressive. Just tired. Like someone who had been holding secrets for too long. Woman. You must be Ayaan. Ayaan. And you are? Woman. My name is Sarah. I used to work with Maira in her previous company. Ayaan's heart started beating faster. Because the past is always connected to betrayal. You just don't know how. Sarah. I don't want to destroy your marriage. But you deserve to know the truth. Ayaan. What truth? Sarah took a deep breath. Then she said something that changed everything. Sarah. Maira didn't start talking to Rahil recently. They have been emotionally close for almost 6 months. Silence. Ayaan couldn't speak. His throat felt dry. 6 months. That number kept repeating inside his head. 6 months is not a mistake. 6 months is a choice. Because love doesn't accidentally last 6 months of secret emotional bonding with someone else. That is not weakness. That is emotional replacement. Ayaan felt something breaking inside him. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like glass cracking under pressure. He wanted to scream. But instead he asked quietly, "Are they in a relationship?" Sarah shook her head. No physical relationship proof. But emotional intimacy is worse sometimes. They talk every night. They share their problems. Rahil became Maira's emotional support when she felt ignored by you. Ayaan felt guilt and anger fighting inside him. Because betrayal is never one-sided in real life. There are always reasons. Not excuses. But reasons. And sometimes those reasons hurt more than the betrayal itself. Sarah gave Ayaan one final piece of information. Something that made his hands start shaking. Sarah. Maira is planning something. She is thinking about leaving the marriage. Not suddenly. Slowly. So it doesn't hurt you too much. Outside, thunder roared. Inside Ayaan's chest, something was already dying. Not his love. His trust. And trust, once dead, becomes revenge waiting to be born. Night time. Ayaan is standing near his apartment balcony. Rain is falling again. He is holding Sarah's words inside his mind like a heavy stone. 6 months. Emotional intimacy. Leaving slowly. The woman he loved was planning to leave him, without telling him directly. Meanwhile, Maira is coming home late. She opens the apartment door quietly. She finds Ayaan sitting in the dark living room. No TV. No music. Just silence. That silence scares her. Because silence is often louder than arguments. Maira. Why are you sitting in the dark? Ayaan. I was waiting for you. Pause. Heavy emotional tension. Ayaan. Where were you? Maira hesitates. That hesitation is enough. Because love can detect lies faster than words. Maira. Work meeting. It ran late. Ayaan looks at her. Not angrily. Just tired. Very tired. Ayaan. Do you still love me, Maira? That question freezes the air. Maira doesn't answer immediately. And that silence is louder than any confession. Love does not die with cheating. Love dies with silence. That night, Ayaan realized something painful. He wasn't angry about Rahil. He was angry about not being important enough to be told the truth. Humans can forgive mistakes. But humans struggle to forgive emotional distance. Ayaan remembered the early days of their relationship. How Maira used to send him random texts like, "Have you eaten? Drive carefully. I miss you even when you are in the next room." Now she barely looked at him when talking. That is how love slowly becomes a memory of itself. Not dead. Just forgotten. Like an old song you once loved but stopped playing. Ayaan finally spoke again. I met Sarah. Maira's face changed immediately. Not shocked. Not surprised. Just scared. Which was worse? Maira. What did she tell you? Ayaan swallowed hard. Because confronting someone you love is harder than confronting a stranger. Ayaan. She told me about Rahil. Silence again. Maira sat on the sofa slowly, like someone preparing for emotional execution. Maira's perspective revealed. Maira finally spoke, but not aggressively. Her voice was soft. Broken. I never wanted to hurt you, Ayaan. I really didn't. She continued. I felt alone. You were working day and night. You stopped asking about my day. You stopped noticing when I was sad. I didn't fall in love with Rahil. I fell in love with attention again. Those words hurt more than cheating, because emotional betrayal is rarely about attraction. It is about loneliness. Loneliness is dangerous in marriages, because loneliness doesn't shout. It whispers slowly. You deserve to feel wanted. And humans are weak against that voice. Maira started crying. Not loudly, just silent tears. Maira. I never slept with him. But I started feeling emotionally attached. That's still betrayal. I know. Ayaan felt anger, but also sadness, because love and pain were fighting inside his chest. Relationship collapse begins. Ayaan asked something he didn't want to ask. Do you want to leave me? Maira didn't answer immediately. Then she said, I don't know. And that was the most honest answer she could give. Because sometimes people don't leave relationships suddenly. They emotionally leave first. Then physically later. Outside, thunder struck loudly, as if nature itself was reacting to their emotional storm. That night marked a turning point in Ayaan's life. Because he understood something painful. Love is not enough to keep someone from leaving. Love needs communication. Love needs attention. Love needs emotional presence. Ayaan realized he had been so focused on building financial stability that he forgot emotional stability. And in relationships, emotional neglect can be as destructive as betrayal. Maira was not a villain. She was a human being who felt invisible. And humans who feel invisible eventually search for people who make them feel seen, even if those people are not their spouses. Rahil was not necessarily a predator. He was just someone who listened when Maira spoke. Listened when she complained about loneliness. Listened when she cried about Ayaan's long working hours. Sometimes betrayal does not start with romance. It starts with conversation. Slow conversation. Then emotional bonding. Then dependency. Then confusion between friendship and love. That is how marriages slowly break without loud fights. Just quiet emotional drifting. Like two boats moving away from each other without realizing it. Before going to bed, Maira said something unexpected. I am not seeing Rahil romantically. But I don't know if I can keep living like this. That sentence destroyed Ayaan more than cheating would have. Because cheating is clear. But emotional confusion is terrifying. Because it means the person you love is standing at a crossroads, and you don't know which path they will choose. Morning light entering the bedroom. But Ayaan and Maira are sleeping on opposite sides of the bed. Physical closeness. Emotional distance. That is how relationships usually start dying. Ayaan wakes up first. He looks at Maira. She looks peaceful while sleeping. Like nothing is broken. But love is not measured by sleeping faces. It is measured by waking reality. He remembers last night's conversation. The words still hurt. I don't know if I can keep living like this. Those words kept echoing inside his head. Ayaan quietly leaves the bedroom. Makes tea. Sits near the window. Thinking about his marriage. Thinking about loneliness. Thinking about betrayal that doesn't have clear boundaries. Later that morning, Maira wakes up. She looks at Ayaan. And instead of talking about emotions, she talks about practical things. Bills. House expenses. Work schedules. Because sometimes people avoid emotional conversations by switching to survival conversations. Ayaan. Do you want space from me? Maira pauses. Then answers carefully. I want attention. Ayaan. Not space. but I don't know how to ask for attention without feeling guilty. That sentence hurts Ayaan deeply, because love should never make someone feel guilty for wanting emotional care. Rain cloud dark secret reveal, Maira's past. That evening, Maira decides to tell Ayaan something she never told him before. They sit on the balcony. Rain starts again, as if the weather is repeating emotional history. Maira, I had another relationship before you. Ayaan listens silently. He already knew this, but he didn't know the pain behind it. Maira, he cheated on me. He was emotionally and physically involved with someone else. I stayed with him for 2 years even after knowing. Ayaan asks softly, why are you telling me this now? Maira answers with tears in her eyes. Because I am scared I am becoming the same person I hated. That confession changes everything. Because trauma often repeats itself in new relationships. Not intentionally, but emotionally. People who were once betrayed sometimes develop emotional defense mechanisms. They either become too distant or emotionally dependent on attention. Psychological conflict deepens. Ayaan starts feeling something different. Not just anger, not just sadness, but fear. Fear of losing Maira completely. Fear of becoming the husband who lost his wife to emotional neglect. Fear is powerful in relationships. Fear can make people either fight for love or destroy it out of insecurity. Later that night, Ayaan checks Maira's phone again. He hates himself for doing it, but trust is already damaged. He finds messages from Rahil. Nothing romantic, but emotionally close. Rahil, are you okay today? Maira, not really. I feel confused about my life. That line hurts Ayaan more than any romantic message would have. Because confusion is the first step toward emotional separation. The past is never truly past. It follows you into every relationship you build afterward. Maira was not intentionally trying to hurt Ayaan, but trauma had changed how she perceived love. She wanted security. She wanted emotional validation. She wanted someone who stayed even when she was emotionally unstable. And Ayaan was learning something painful. Love is not just about loyalty. It is about emotional understanding. You cannot love someone by only providing financial stability. You must provide emotional safety too. Otherwise, someone else will become their emotional refuge. Not because they are better, but because they were present when you were absent. Ayaan sat on the balcony thinking about everything. He thought about giving up. Then he thought about fighting for their marriage. Marriage is not a single decision. It is thousands of small decisions every day. Choosing to stay. Choosing to talk. Choosing patience. Choosing forgiveness. But forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is emotional strength. However, forgiveness without change becomes emotional suffering. And Ayaan knew he had to decide soon. Stay and fight. Or leave before the pain destroyed both of them. Late at night, Ayaan receives another unknown message. But this time, the message is not from Sarah. It is from someone inside Maira's office. And the message contains a photo. A photo of Maira and Rahil standing too close together at a late-night parking lot. Not kissing, but emotionally intimate. And Ayaan realizes something terrifying. The real betrayal might not be emotional anymore. It might be about choices Maira hasn't admitted yet. It's a night time. Ayaan is sitting alone in the living room. The phone is in his hand. The photo is still open on the screen. Maira standing with Rahil. Laughing. Standing too close. Too comfortable. Comfort is sometimes more dangerous than romance in betrayal stories. Because comfort means emotional attachment has already formed. Maira comes out of the bedroom. She notices Ayaan's expression immediately. Because people who love each other can read emotions without speaking. Maira, what happened? Ayaan doesn't answer immediately. He shows her the photo. Silence. Very heavy silence. Ayaan, explain this. Maira closes her eyes. She expected this moment. Because truth always finds its way out. Maira. We went out after work. Just colleagues talking. Ayaan. Why are you standing so close to him? Maira gets emotional. Not defensive. Sad. Because she knows how this looks. Maira. Because he listens to me, Ayaan. That's the truth. That sentence breaks Ayaan emotionally. Because emotional betrayal is rarely about attraction. It is about being heard. Now emotional explosion begins. Ayaan finally loses control. Not shouting, but emotionally breaking. Ayaan. So I was not listening. I was working to give you a better life. I paid for this apartment. I paid for everything so you could live comfortably. Maira starts crying. Not loudly. Just quiet tears again. Because sometimes love arguments are not loud wars. They are quiet emotional funerals. Maira. I never asked for expensive life, Ayaan. I asked for time. That line hits harder than any accusation. Because Maira was right. Love is not measured by money. Love is measured by presence. Psychological shift. Ayaan's revenge thoughts begin. Ayaan starts feeling something dangerous inside. Not violence, but emotional revenge thoughts. Thoughts like, if she wants attention, maybe I should stop caring completely. This is a dangerous psychological defense mechanism. Because emotional revenge destroys relationships faster than anger. That night was the beginning of emotional war inside Ayaan's mind. He loved Maira. But love was slowly mixing with fear and resentment. And resentment is poison for relationships. Because resentment doesn't explode immediately. It grows quietly. Like mold inside walls. Ayaan kept thinking about everything. About how he worked overtime. About how he missed dinners. About how he thought providing money was enough love. But love is not a transaction. Love is emotional energy exchange. If one person keeps giving and the other keeps feeling neglected, the relationship becomes emotionally unbalanced. Maira was also suffering. She was not a villain. She was a woman who felt emotionally abandoned. Humans are emotional creatures. If they don't feel valued in their primary relationship, they start searching for validation outside. Not always physically, sometimes emotionally. And emotional cheating is harder to detect. Because it starts with simple things. Compliments. Listening. Understanding complaints. Sharing personal problems. Then slowly, boundaries blur. Maira did not want to destroy her marriage. But she was scared of spending her entire life feeling emotionally invisible. That fear was stronger than her love sometimes. Fear makes humans make bad emotional decisions. Not evil decisions. Just confused decisions. Late that night, Ayaan receives another message. This time from Rahil. The message says, if you really love her, you should ask her about what happened 3 years ago. Ayaan freezes. Because he never knew there was something from Maira's past that he didn't know about. Something bigger than emotional cheating. Something hidden. Something that could destroy their marriage completely. It's a midnight. HT. Ayaan is sitting in darkness. Phone in his hand. Rahil's message is still open. Ask her about what happened 3 years ago. Those words are like poison in his mind. Because curiosity is stronger than peace when trust is already broken. Bedroom door opens slowly. Maira walks out. She notices Ayaan is still awake. Maira. You didn't sleep. Ayaan. I have a question. Maira immediately feels tension. Because she knows what kind of questions come at midnight. Ayaan. What happened 3 years ago? Silence. Long silence. Maira sits slowly on the sofa. She looks exhausted emotionally. Maira. Rahil told you, didn't he? Ayaan doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Maira starts speaking slowly. Like someone confessing a crime. Not because she wants to. But because truth always becomes heavier with time. Maira. 3 years ago. I was pregnant. Ayaan's body freezes. He didn't expect that. Not at all. She continues. It was before we got married. The father was my previous boyfriend. The one who cheated on me. Ayaan feels shock, pain, confusion. Maira. He didn't want the baby. He told me to abort it. I was emotionally broken. I lost the baby because of complications during early pregnancy. Maira starts crying. Not dramatic crying. Quiet, broken crying. Maira. After that, I had depression for almost a year. I never told you because I was scared you would see me as damaged. Those words destroy Ayaan emotionally, because sometimes people hide trauma not because they are dishonest, but because they are scared of rejection. This has affected Ayaan psychological. Why? Ayaan realizes something painful. Maira's emotional behavior was not betrayal alone. It was trauma response. Her need for attention. Her emotional dependency on Rahil's listening behavior. It all made sense now. But understanding does not always remove pain. Sometimes understanding makes pain deeper. Because you cannot hate someone you understand. But you also cannot ignore your own emotional suffering. That night changed everything inside Ayaan's mind. He was not thinking about Rahil anymore. He was thinking about Maira's loneliness. About her past trauma. About how she carried pain alone for years. Trauma changes how people love. Some become emotionally closed. Some become overly attached. Maira became emotionally vulnerable to anyone who listened to her problems. Because she had once lost someone emotionally. And humans who experience abandonment trauma often fear being alone again. Ayaan felt guilt growing inside him. Because he realized he was not emotionally available enough. He had focused on building financial security. But emotional security was missing. Marriage is not just about staying faithful physically. Marriage is about building emotional safety. But at the same time, Ayaan also felt hurt. Because emotional attachment with another man was still betrayal. Even if it came from loneliness. Love is complicated like that. You can understand someone's pain, but still feel hurt by their choices. Human emotions are not logical. They are chaotic. Like storms inside hearts. Ayaan looked at Maira sleeping later that night. He felt love. And pain. And fear of losing her. Because trauma does not erase love. It just makes love fragile. Like glass. Beautiful. But easily broken. Early morning. Ayaan finds another message on his phone. This time from Sarah. And the message says, Rahil is not who you think he is. He has been manipulating Maira emotionally. And Ayaan realizes something terrifying. Maybe Maira is not the only one who is emotionally trapped. Maybe someone is manipulating both of them. At Ayaan's office. He is staring at his computer screen. But he is not working. He is thinking. Thinking about Maira. Thinking about Rahil. Thinking about manipulation. Because betrayal is not always about two people. Sometimes a third person controls the emotional battlefield. Ayaan decides to meet Sarah again. They meet at the same riverside cafe. Rain is falling again. Almost like fate repeating emotional memories. Ayaan. You said Rahil is not who I think he is. Sarah nods. She looks serious. More serious than before. Sarah. Rahil has a pattern. He targets emotionally vulnerable women. He doesn't want relationships. He wants emotional control. Ayaan feels cold inside. Because psychological manipulation is harder to fight than physical betrayal. You can fight cheating. You cannot easily fight emotional dependency manipulation. Sarah continues explaining. Sarah. Rahil acts like a listener. He doesn't give solutions. He only listens to problems. That makes people emotionally dependent on him. She continues. Maira was going through depression trauma. Rahil became her emotional escape. But he never tried to stop the emotional bonding. He encouraged it slowly. Ayaan feels anger growing, not only toward Rahil, but also toward himself, because he was emotionally absent when Maira needed support. Now it has become a psychological warfare theme. Rahil is not interested in marriage. He is interested in emotional validation control. People like Rahil create emotional bonds without responsibility. They make lonely people feel understood, then slowly become emotional anchors. Not lovers, but emotional dependency sources. That day Ayaan understood something terrifying. Not all betrayal is romantic. Some betrayal is psychological. Rahil was not trying to steal Maira physically. He was trying to become her emotional safe space. And emotional safety is powerful. Because humans will always choose emotional comfort over logical loyalty if they feel lonely enough. Ayaan felt conflicted. He hated Rahil. But he also understood how loneliness works. Loneliness does not care about morality. Loneliness only cares about survival. Maira was not cheating because she didn't love Ayaan. She was emotionally starving. And Rahil was feeding that emotional hunger slowly, like someone giving water to a person dying of thirst. Not because they want to save them, but because they want emotional control. Manipulation is subtle. It does not start with control. It starts with kindness, then slowly introduces emotional guilt, then dependency, then control. Ayaan remembered Maira saying, "I feel guilty when I ask for attention." That was not love. That was emotional conditioning. And Ayaan felt anger growing. But also responsibility. Because marriages don't break because of one villain. They break because of emotional neglect, trauma, and manipulation combined. That night, Ayaan decides something dangerous. He will meet Rahil directly, without telling Maira. Because sometimes truth must be confronted face to face. Not through messages. Not through intermediaries, but in real life. And the meeting will decide whether red heart # the marriage can be saved, broken heart or everything will collapse. Completely. Scene opens at a quiet restaurant. Ayaan is sitting alone, waiting. His hands are slightly shaking, but his face is calm. Because sometimes emotional wars are fought with silence, not shouting. Rahil enters. Confident walk. Smiling face. The kind of man who looks harmless. And that is exactly what makes him dangerous. Rahil. You wanted to talk. Ayaan. Yes. About Maira. Rahil smiles slightly. Like he expected this. Rahil. You are afraid of losing her, aren't you? Ayaan stays silent. Because silence is sometimes stronger than anger. Ayaan. Stay away from my wife. Rahil laughs softly, not aggressively, calmly. That makes Ayaan more angry. Rahil leans forward, speaks slowly, like someone explaining reality to a child. Rahil. You think love is ownership, Ayaan. Listen carefully. I never forced Maira to talk to me. She came to me because she felt emotionally alone. That statement hurts Ayaan deeply, because it is partly true. Truth is painful when it is mixed with blame. Rahil. You work hard. That is good. But you replaced emotional presence with financial responsibility. Money doesn't hug someone at night. Ayaan clenches his fists. But he doesn't hit Rahil. Because emotional intelligence is stronger than physical aggression. Rahil continues. Rahil. I don't want Maira. I want to feel needed. That is my addiction. And Maira needed someone to listen. So we both used each other emotionally. That confession shocks Ayaan. Because Rahil is not denying manipulation. He is justifying it. That is psychologically dangerous. That moment changed something inside Ayaan forever. He realized that relationships are not always destroyed by evil people. Sometimes they are destroyed by emotionally broken people searching for validation. Rahil was not a traditional villain. He was emotionally damaged. Maira was not a traitor. She was emotionally starved. And Ayaan was not a bad husband. He was emotionally absent. All three were victims of different emotional wounds. That is how real-life betrayal works. There are rarely pure heroes or pure villains. Only humans trying to survive emotional pain. Ayaan thought about his marriage. About Maira crying in his arms. About her saying she felt invisible. And he realized something terrifying. If he wanted to save his marriage, he had to change. Not just fight Rahil. Not just demand loyalty. But rebuild emotional connection with Maira. Because love cannot survive on confrontation alone. It needs healing. Ayaan returns home that night. He finds Maira sitting on the bed. She looks at him and says, "I met Rahil today." Silence. Then she continues. "And I think I am ready to make a final decision about our marriage." The story is now at its emotional peak. Because the final decision will determine red heart # marriage healing, broken heart separation heartbreak, fire or revenge emotional destruction arc. Scene opens at night. Bedroom lights are dim. Ayaan and Maira are sitting on opposite sides of the bed. No shouting. No fighting. Just emotional exhaustion. That is usually where real relationship decisions are made. Maira. "I met Rahil today." Ayaan nods slowly. He already knew. Because secrets always come out eventually. Maira. "He told me something strange. He said he doesn't want to be part of my emotional life anymore. He said I should focus on my marriage." Ayaan stays silent. Because he understands Rahil's psychological game. Rahil wanted emotional control, not responsibility. Once Maira became emotionally stable, she became less dependent. So he stepped back. That is classic emotional manipulation withdrawal behavior. "Maira. I realized something, Ayaan. I was not looking for Rahil. I was looking for someone who would listen to me." Her eyes fill with tears. "Maira. But I also realized something else. You were trying to provide everything except emotional time." That statement is painful but honest. Truth is painful but necessary for healing. Ayaan finally speaks. His voice is low. Broken. "Ayaan. I was scared of failing as a provider. My father lost his job when I was young. I promised myself I would never let my family suffer financially. But I forgot emotional survival matters too." Maira starts crying silently, because they both were victims of their own fears. Now, marriage healing attempt. Tea begins. Ayaan moves closer to her. Slowly, carefully, like repairing something fragile. "Ayaan. I don't want to lose you. I can change. I will change." But Maira shakes her head slightly. Not rejection. Not acceptance. Confusion. Because healing takes time. You cannot fix emotional damage overnight. That night was not about forgiveness. It was about understanding. Ayaan realized something important. Love is not about winning arguments. Love is about understanding emotional needs before they become emotional wounds. Maira realized something too. She realized that emotional cheating was not the solution to loneliness. It only created more emotional confusion. Human hearts are not simple machines. They cannot be repaired with apologies alone. They need behavioral change, consistency, presence, emotional safety. Marriage is not a contract of love. It is a contract of emotional responsibility. Both of them were exhausted. But exhaustion is sometimes the first step toward emotional maturity. Because only when people reach emotional rock bottom do they start rebuilding correctly. Ayaan held Maira's hand that night. Not tightly, just gently. Because love is not about control. Love is about safety. And safety comes from trust rebuilt slowly. Like constructing a house after an earthquake. One brick at a time. Maira whispers softly, "I don't want divorce right now. But I also need time to heal." Ayaan nods. Because sometimes love is not about staying together immediately. Sometimes love is about giving space to heal while still staying emotionally connected. Scene opens 6 months later. Soft morning sunlight. Apartment is quieter now. But not lonely. Calm. There is emotional maturity in the air. Ayaan is cooking breakfast. Something he never used to do before. Maira enters the kitchen. Smiles slightly. Not forced. Natural. Maira. You've changed. Ayaan. So have you. They both smile. Because growth is visible in small habits. Not big speeches. Maira continues. I stopped talking to Rahil completely. I started therapy. That helped me understand my trauma patterns. Ayaan nods. He also went to therapy. Because emotional healing requires professional help sometimes. Not just love. Ayaan. I reduced my working hours. I realized I was running away from emotional problems by working more. Silence. Comfortable silence this time. Not painful silence. Maira speaks softly. Maira. Are we healed? Ayaan thinks for a moment. Then answers honestly. Ayaan. Not completely. But we are trying. And trying is sometimes stronger than perfect love. Life does not always give happy endings. But it gives second chances. Ayaan and Maira did not magically become perfect. They became mature. And maturity is the highest form of love. They learned something important. Love is not excitement every day. Love is commitment during emotional storms. They learned that relationships are not saved by grand gestures. They are saved by small daily decisions. Choosing to talk. Choosing to listen. Choosing patience. Choosing forgiveness when possible. But also choosing self-respect. Maira learned she should never depend emotionally on external validation. Ayaan learned emotional presence is more important than financial success alone. They didn't forget the past. But they didn't let the past control their future. Because real love is not about never breaking. Real love is about rebuilding after breaking. Like flowers growing after winter. Slow. Quiet. But alive. They sit on the balcony together. Watching sunset. No dramatic music. Just calm emotional closure. Maira leans on Ayaan's shoulder. And whispers. I think I still love you. Ayaan smiles and replies. I know. Because sometimes love does not need loud declarations. Sometimes love just needs quiet presence. And that is enough. Red Heart # the end.